Okay, thanks, Loretta. And hold on one second here. Let me get that off. Okay. Good. Hi, everybody. Good evening. Once again, as a reminder, I just want to mention that podcast I'll be doing with Loretta next Thursday uh, is not a sum. It's taking the steps and applying them to our daily life. How we can actually use them in different areas, like, for example, raising your children, doing all kinds of different things, relationships. So we'll talk a lot about that. I always enjoy doing that. And so we decided to do it in a podcast this year. So it'll be great. Anyway, we're going to conclude the series tonight with steps 10 through 12. And I'll get to them in a couple of minutes. But I want to start off tonight by doing the reading. And the one I picked, I posted on Facebook this morning, is the 11th step prayer. On awakening, we ask you, Father, to help us think about the 24 hours ahead and consider our plans for the day. We ask you to direct our thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonesty, and self-seeking motives. In thinking about our day, we may face indecision. We may not be able to determine which course to take. Here we ask you for an intuitive thought or decision. We ask that you show us all through the day what our next step is to be, that you give us whatever we need to take care of our problems. We ask especially for freedom from self-will. As we go through the day when agitated or doubtful, grant us the right thought or action. Constantly remind us that we are no longer running the show. Father, help us humbly say many, many times each day, thy will be done. That prayer is taken from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous on page 86 and 87 and 88. I wanted to share that with you because in talking about steps 10 through 12, I kind of have a nickname for these steps. I call them the gratitude steps or the daily everyday living steps. I love these steps because they kind of put the rest of the program in perspective and kind of put it together. In the first three steps, we went over the foundation steps about acceptance, surrender. We talked about faith and trust. In steps 4 through 9, the working steps, we looked at doing our work. What's so beautiful about the steps in general is that they are a way of life. And they're beautiful. And I'm grateful of the founders of this program when they put this together, because I don't think they totally understood it, but I think they did in a way. And that's why I really believe that the higher power had a lot to do with the steps and putting them together and knowing what things we need for our own spiritual growth in our life. We look at step 10. They tell us in step 10 to take a daily inventory of our life. And I have a kind of a little nickname for step 10. I call it the step of reflection. It's the step to be able to be quiet, to look within, but it's also to make time for yourself as a person. I have learned over the years, one of the secrets to step 10 is something I always kind of connect with. Because I think sometimes in life we get so busy and so complicated and involved in so many things, we never take time just to be with ourselves, to reflect back on the day. So I always looked at step 10 as a time to reflect and look back on things that happened during the course of the day, things that maybe agitated me or got me in trouble sometimes, to be able to say I'm sorry. It's almost like doing a little inventory, to be able just to take that time. And the old timers used to tell us this all the time. They used to say, in the morning and in the evening, get on your knees and be able just to reflect on the day. And don't take anything negative to bed with you at night. And that's why this 10th step is so important. I share it with you because I want to tell you kind of a story about me and my connection to something like this. When I was a kid growing up, I was born and raised in Camden, as most of you know. And back in the 40s in Camden, our little house we had on Clinton Street, and believe me, it was a little house we had on Clinton Street. In our backyard, we actually had an outhouse. We had plumbing in our house, and we had a regular bathroom, but basically the outhouse was left there from years ago. And my father had this wonderful idea that whenever I got into trouble, he would send me out to the outhouse for my timeout. So I nicknamed the timeout house. And he would say to me, take all your crap and all your nonsense and go out to the outhouse and sit there. It's got a seat. Sit there and take your crap out there. And you can come back in when I tell you to. I always liked the trips out there because it didn't smell too good, a little moldy, and usually were a few little critters crawling around inside of it. But it was my father's way. And I was often referred to the 10th step as the timeout step, when we actually take the time to go within ourselves and reflect. And I love it because it's just a few minutes, a little bit of time during the day to be able to look back on your day and reflect. It's almost like it's interconnected to all the other steps, especially to the 4th and 5th step. It's a way to reflect, to release, and to let go. So to kind of bring that into perspective, I wanted to read you another prayer I use every night. It's called the 10th step prayer. And believe it or not, all the steps have prayers connected to them. And the step prayer goes, Father, we ask you help us continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. Help us to continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask that you remove them. Help us to discuss them with someone else immediately and make amends if we have harmed anyone. Help us resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code. Father, we ask your forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken. I love that prayer. It's so special. And I'm going to post that on Facebook tomorrow morning. And I love that prayer because it really is a very beautiful way of ending your day. And realizing what they're telling you in the prayer is when you're able to reflect on others, you reflect on yourself. And so it's all about growing and learning. The 10th step leads us into the 11th step. In the 11th step, they tell us that to seek through prayer and meditation a conscious contact with the God of our understanding. They talk a lot about prayer and meditation in the 11th step. Again, it's a big piece of the journey of life. It's so important because prayer in reality is communication. It's communicating with the higher power. It's asking for guidance. It's asking for direction, and asking for help. We've heard this from scripture many times. Seek and you shall find. Guide, be open. We constantly hear the concept of being able to ask for guidance, to ask for direction, to ask for help. And I'm convinced if we have the courage to ask, then things will be given to us. Messengers will be sent. But they may not come the way we want them to come. Sometimes they come other ways. That's okay too. We have to be open. So prayer is a great gift. I'll tell you 2 stories about prayer. In growing up, to me, prayer was always something that was intellectual. It's like memorizing certain prayers and then saying them on a regular basis. But the prayer I'm talking about today is not prayer from up here. It's prayer from your heart and from your gut. It's prayer of the spirit. Whenever I talk about prayer, I always describe what I call different types of prayer. A prayer we all know, and once in a while we fall back into using it, is called baby prayer. And it goes like this. Gimme, 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 I want, I want, I want. Now, now, now. And many of us get caught up in that sometimes. We always want something. But then we have what I call, when we get in trouble, we have what I call the addict's prayer. It goes like this. If you get me out of this jam, I make the following 97 promises. Isn't it amazing how we do that? And then as soon as we get out of the jam, then we do something called plea bargaining prayer. It goes like this. You don't really expect me to do all 97 now, do you? What if I just do 2? We're always bargaining, bargaining, bargaining. The prayer I'm talking about today is prayer that comes from your spirit. It comes from who you are. It comes from your openness, your honesty. It comes from what's going on deep down inside of you. I've always told you the story. One of my greatest prayer teachers was a little guy from South Philadelphia. I'm not going to use his real name. I'll just use the name Joe. And he was a street wino that used to arrive at Starting Point at our halfway house as soon as the hawk arrived. I don't know if all of you know what the hawk is. It means wintertime is coming. It's getting cold. When it got cold, he would arrive and he'd come in with carrying his shopping bag. Everything he owned was in the bag. I'd give him a bunk, get him set up. He'd take the stuff out of the bag. And he always kept in that shopping bag this old crucifix. And the crucifix was dirty. The figurine was bent a little bit and the one arm was hanging down. It probably got out of a trash can somewhere, I'm sure. And I say, hey, Joe, who's that? He said, that's the boss. I said, tell me about the boss. He says, well, I talk to him every day. Some days I tell him where to go. Some days I let him have it. Some days I'm really pissed off and angry at him. Other days I like him. Pretty nice guy sometimes. And he was out like carrying a conversation. And I love that concept. It's almost like he was in touch with the higher power. He was conversing, but he was sharing things from his gut and from his heart, what was going on in his life. And to me, this is the ultimate form of prayer. You can't learn that in theology or books and stuff. It's prayer that comes from your hurt, your pain, your joy, your celebration. It comes from the inside. And I've learned over and over again, one of the greatest gifts of prayer is just having a conversation with my higher power, being able to express how I feel, what's going on inside of me. And sometimes I don't even want to pray. So I tell my higher power, I don't feel like talking to you today. I need a break, okay? But you know what? Stick with me anyway, even though I don't feel like talking to you. But it's okay to talk that way. One of my prayers I say every morning, as part of my regimen of morning prayers, I always say, hey, boss. This goes in conjunction with the 11-step prayer because I call God the boss too. I said, here's how I look at it. You're the employer. I work for you. Therefore, give me the work assignments for the day. I'll do the best I possibly can. Help me to be open to whatever you have in store for me today. I've often said the 11-step prayer is probably the most dangerous prayer you can say because it says in that prayer, your will, not mine. Now, I'm a codependent, and I can win the prize. You can take a look at my scheduling book. It's right here, and I got everything scheduled. I got my whole day organized. I'm raring to go. I got everything that I want to get done today. But you know what? He did it again. He screwed the whole day up. Changes occurred. I had to adjust. I was constantly having to adjust because I gave it to him. And now he basically is telling me, I don't want you going there. You're going to go there. So I love this natural conversation with your higher power, whatever you choose to call God. And that prayer is so important because it means it's you. You're expressing what's inside of you. I love a little book I have called Conversations with God. It's almost like they're having a conversation with God and God is answering questions and stuff. But what I like about it so much is the humanness of the book, the humanness of it. It's basically because it's coming from the heart. And so it's a very powerful and beautiful concept. And so I really believe it's important for me anyway, because I'm an early riser, as most of you know. I'm usually up at 4:30. There's this bell in my head that goes off at 4:30 in the morning. I tried everything possible to silence it, but it still goes off. I know where it comes from. See, when I was a kid, my mother would wake me up at 4:30 every morning because we had to go to the 5:30 Mass at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church. And guess who had to serve the 5:30 Mass, even though I was falling asleep on the altar? But the bottom line was 4:30, 5:30 Mass, 4:30, 5:30 Mass. Hey, that became my normal. And as a result, now I wake up. And so to me, I realize I'm a morning person. Many of you may not be morning people, and that's okay. Each one of us has to find out what works for us. But I love the early morning because I can sit in the sunroom. I can do my prayer and my meditation, and it's still dark out, and I can listen very quietly to I call them the night singers, the crickets and the little insects and stuff. They really are beautiful listening to them in the morning. It's almost like they're a serenade. They serenade you. It's kind of a beautiful thing to start your day. And I learned a lot of that because when I talk about meditation, my definition of meditation is very simple. Take time to fill your soul. Take time to input stuff into you. Take time to allow yourself to receive. See, prayer is asking for help. Meditation is allowing yourself to grow. It's almost like, I'm sure you wouldn't try to drive your car anywhere without an empty tank of gas. Well, recovery is the exact same way. You have to fill the spirit. You got to fill the tank. And it's important. So I've learned over the years some of the most beautiful meditation books. And they give me thoughts to think about during the course of the day. One of my favorite meditation books, I've been using it for a long time now, are Meditations with Native American Elders. All the people in that book are people in recovery that wrote, Native American Indians in recovery. And what I love so much about it, they always talk so much about our connection to nature, our connection to the concept of where we live and what life is really all about. And it's so beautiful and so special. And I love the language of letting go. I love these books because they start my day. They put things into my thought patterns. And I've learned to begin the day with prayer, with meditation. What's ironical, if I wake up late sometimes, or if I don't do the things I normally do, it's almost like my day is out of kilter. It's almost, maybe because I'm getting old, I'm a creature of habit, but that kind of fuels my day, gets my day going, and puts things in perspective for me. And it makes me try to understand. And then I take it a step further because I enjoy Facebook. I always post thoughts of my meditations on Facebook. I enjoy doing that. And I enjoy listening to other people's little thoughts and things they put out. And so it's nice to be able to be connected with people in recovery on Facebook and be connected with what I call my family. It's a beautiful thing to be able to experience that in the morning, to get your day started, to get your day moving, to kind of invigorate you, to get your blood flowing. Because I call my mental blood just as important as my physical blood. And so I realize more and more how important both these things are. And meditation, you can find meditation apps on your phone. I mean, you have a lot of fun with them on your phone. You know, there are actually recovery meditation apps. There's also, quiet meditation apps. There's all kinds of apps out there. When you just to Google, talk to that lady, Mrs. Google, and she'll tell you where they are. And they're free. It's amazing. They even have guided meditations, different things you can experience. But see, all these things are available to us today that were never available before. And so meditation is not complicated. Prayer is not complicated. The secret is, as the step says, to stay in touch with the higher power, to make the God of our understanding part of our journey and part of our life and part of our fabric, the fiber of our system. And I realize it's so important to begin the day in prayer and to end the day in prayer. The old timers used to say this all the time, and I love these guys. And I got to tell you another funny story. I'm always quoting from the old timers. I kind of got that from the Indian meditation book because it said to listen to your elders. They always talk about in meditation and the meditation book. But I said this to a guy one day, and he said to me, "Hey, Vince, what about those old timers you talk about? Where can I find them?" I said, "Well, unfortunately, the majority of them are dead." He said, "Oh, then you must be an old timer." I says, "Oh, geez. All right. You got me. I guess I qualify now." It's totally amazing. I remember way back when I first started going to meetings over in Philadelphia at the 4021 Club. I was young then. And they used to have the special meeting on Wednesday mornings at 8:30. It's called the Old Timers Meeting. It was up on the third floor. The only problem was every time you could tell that they were meeting because the smoke would be coming down from the third floor from all the smoking going on up there. Well, you weren't allowed to go to the old timers club, I don't think, unless you had 400 years sobriety or something. I don't know. But the bottom line was there are characters. And I love all that. But see, that's the concept of the more you fill your soul, the more you put stuff inside of you, you begin to look at life. You can laugh at life. You can enjoy life. Yes, the world is dysfunctional. It'll be dysfunctional to the end of time. You know, I get a kick out of it every day because after I do my prayer and meditation in the morning, I go down to the gym at our clubhouse and I usually meet a bunch of some more old timers. We kind of meet down there, you know. In fact, don't tell anybody. I'm probably the youngest one of the whole group, but that's okay. You know, but the bottom line is I always get a kick out of them because they talk about if only things were the way they were back in the 30s and the 40s, then everything would be okay. We didn't have any problems back then. Hey. And I used to laugh. It was always Buster Bumble. I'd say, I think there was a couple of world wars back then. I think there was another war. I think there was a depression. I think there were a lot of other problems. I think there were killings going on back then as they are now. Just to kind of throw that out there, you know, things don't change. Maybe the complexion of it changes, but the concept is it's still there. We live in a dysfunctional world. Recovery is teaching us to look within your spirit, and realize the fact that you can be in touch with the inner self, the inner spirit, while you're still part of the world in which we live. And it makes you look at the world through a different set of eyes, through the eyes of learning, growing, the eyes of compassion, the eyes of forgiveness, the eyes of healing. Open up new doors for yourself as a result of it. That leads us to the 12th step, my favorite step in the program. You know why it's my favorite step? It's the only step you don't have to work. Isn't that wonderful? You know why I say that? Because the step says, having had a spiritual awakening, having done your work, having worked on yourself, then to carry a message to others and to practice these principles in all of your affairs. I still kind of, when they say, practice these in all of your affairs, I hope they didn't mean that way. But the concept is in all different aspects of life. So the concept is in the 12th step, it says you carry the message by the way you live your life. I truly believe that we speak to one another and we speak to the world through something called our energy or our spirit. Just by the way you function, by the way you live, you carry a message. And then all you can do is carry a message by being honest with yourself, by filling your own self with good, healthy stuff, and then let it just kind of work its way out. What's so beautiful about the 12th step is it doesn't say once in there to go out and save anybody. It says carry a message. The old timers used to say, carry the message, not the drunk. Carry the message. You know, some of the more recent people says, lead the horse to water, shove his head in the water, but you can't make him drink it. Each person's got to find their own way, their own concept. So you carry a message. I'll tell you a couple of stories about that. I always love telling Bobby's story. And Bobby was a very special person I met when I had the halfway house in Philly. Bobby was a street alkie. You know, Bobby came through our program. Bobby did pretty well. But Bobby had a lot of things he had to learn about how to live in general. But after we opened up 4 different halfway houses in Philly, we decided that a lot of the guys didn't want to leave. So we would help them get places and get settled in different areas. But then we started an outpatient program, which meant they would come to our center on 23rd Street, 9 o'clock in the morning, and leave at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We give them a light lunch, and then we teach them things during the day. Since they're all people off the streets, we taught them things like hygiene, you know, how to take care of their clothes, how to manage an apartment, you know, different cooking skills, So we did all these kind of wonderful things in the outpatient program. It was a way to get people ready to go back into the world. We also had some time for spirituality, time for prayer. We connected them to the program and how it's supposed to work. And so Bobby would show up every day for 1 year. Bobby would arrive at our front door, 9 o'clock in the morning on the dot. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he would leave and go back to his apartment. Bobby did that for a whole year. And one day I got a knock on the door. I opened the door, and this little small guy standing there, he said to me, "Hey, can I talk to you, mister?" I said, "Sure." He says, "I don't know what you guys doing here. I've been watching this guy come in there every morning. I live in the apartments across the street. Been watching this guy come into your place at 9 o'clock in the morning and leave at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He looks pretty damn good. I used to drink with him on the street. I don't know what you're doing in here, but you mind if I come and do some?" Well, Bobby didn't know it. He was carrying a message to another people, not even knowing he was doing it, just by working his own program, working on his own self. The energy from him was speaking to others. And I truly believe that because I've been around the rooms a long time, and I can pick up energy of people. And I love learning from others because we speak so powerfully, not so much by what we say. We speak by the energy, how we treat one another, how we make time for one another. It's the little things that make life. The message gets carried in small ways. It might just be making a phone call, connecting with someone, listening to a person. It's all that energy, all that connection. That's why I've told you this so many times. One of the beautiful things about children and about animals, those of you who have pets know what I'm talking about. You can't fool them because they don't hear a word that you say, but they can feel the energy coming out of you. They know if you love them. They know if you care about them, and they can feel it if you don't, even though you might be saying all the right things on the outside. But they can feel when there's tension. They can feel different things. Well, that's the same thing with us in life. You know, you've been around people sometimes that are always negative. And after you've been around them for a while, you kind of go nuts. I always use the example of my neighbor across the street. I love her. She's in her late 80s. And, you know, I go over and do some favors for her and help her out a lot. My wife does too. But basically, when I go over there, she always starts. I got to hear about all the problems in the world, all the problems in Holiday City, all the problems going on, and on and on and on and on. But she knows every negative thing that's happening, even though she tells me every time I go over there, I never watch the news. Then how do you know all this stuff? But on and on and on she goes. And the scary part about it is I can only take so much. Because she always says to me, "And how are you?" And I said, I'm doing pretty good. I feel good." "No, you don't." "Oh, okay." She says, "You're 81 years old. There's got to be something wrong with you. Now tell me what's wrong with you." I said, "No, nothing. I feel okay. I'm having a good day." "No, you're not." Well, the crazy part about it is you spend enough time with her. You start trying to find things wrong with you so you can tell her about them. You start creating them. Well, I have a headache once in a while. This happens. No, hey, come on. And it's the energy in people. You've been around people that you feel comfortable with, you feel safe with, and safety is a big thing. You can feel that energy in them. You like being around them. You just like their presence. You like who they are because you pick up good vibes. And I really understand that concept. It's so important. And that's why the 12th step says, having done your own work, having worked on yourself, having put good energy inside of yourself, then you carry a message by the way you talk to people, you share with people. And even when you're not doing so good, you're able even to say that and be honest about it. And that's the secret to the things we do in life. And so we have to learn the secret of honesty, of openness, and just be able to do our own work. Yeah, we're going to make mistakes, sure. And we're going to put our foot in our mouth every so often, sure. Isn't it fun to be human, to make all these crazy mistakes? And the beautiful part about it is it's just part of our humanity. That's all that it is. And we learned this after a while. And as a result, then we were able to become closer to ourselves and closer to others. But also we realized the fact that, and this really goes for codependence, because so many times, and I did it for a lot of years, you want to fix everybody, save everybody, rescue everybody, take care of everybody. Stop. You can't do that. It's their right. They have to do their journey and their development the way it works for them. So you carry a message. You carry some love. You give some energy. You share things. And that's why that 12 step says, just live your life to the best of your ability. Be open with yourself and be honest. And realize the fact that you will be talking to others without even knowing you're talking to them. And that's what's important. It might be just a wave. It might be hi, how are you? Good to see you. Simple little things, not complicated. I think sometimes we have a tendency to complicate everything in life. We have to learn to keep it simple. The little things that mean a lot to a lot of people in this world. It's the little things, caring about somebody, listening to them for a few minutes. It's all those simple little things that connect the dots and put the dots together. And so these 3 steps, I always call them the steps of gratitude, because to me, one of the most greatest spiritual gifts on the face of the earth is gratitude. To be grateful for the gift of these 12 steps. But the last part is to practice these in all of your affairs, in all aspects of your life. And that's one of the reasons I talked to Loretta about doing that podcast next week, because I really want to get into that a lot more deeper, about how to use these steps as tools for life, to be able to use the all different aspects of your life. It's so beautiful because it works. I even use them as therapeutic tools. It's so beautiful because I really believe the founders kind of put that in at the end. If you learn from the manuscript, the old manuscript, they put that together at the end. And I'm glad they did, because I really believe they were getting ready. This program was being put together so that it will become principles for growth in people in life, and not just to deal with alcohol, even though they were dealing with alcohol. But the bottom line is the principles are lifetime principles. And I've said this a long time ago. If only we could take these principles and implant them to people in the world around us, it would change the world completely. It's totally amazing. But we can't do it alone. We need each other to be connected to each other. And guess what? We're all human. We're going to have good days and bad days. Some days we're going to feel like, ugh. Other days we're going to feel good. Some days we'll smile and some days we'll frown. It's a combination of everything in the course of our journey. We'll go through loss, we'll go through changes, we'll go through aspects of life, but that's what it's really all about. And so we actually take these and we apply them. And I really believe that these steps were divinely inspired, because literally, they were given to these beautiful gentlemen to allow us finally to put them into practice. And that's why today, believe it or not, there are over 21 different 12-step programs around today. It's totally amazing, isn't it? I mean, you name it, we got it. It's just totally unbelievable. I'll tell you one more story before I close my mouth tonight. I never forget when I gave one of these talks on the steps quite a number of years ago at a church in Oakland, New Jersey. And after the talk, a lady came up to me and she said, these 12 steps, you think we could use them? I said, well, what do you mean? She said, well, there's 5 of us here, 5 ladies were standing there. We like to start a meeting. I said, okay, what do you mean? Okay, we want to call the meeting Unemployed Anonymous. I said, what? They said, no, we want to use the 12 steps to actually help us and share with each other to eventually help us to get employment. I said, what are they going to do then? Call Employment Anonymous? But the concept is they got it. And so Hazelden actually put out a book. It's called The 12 Steps for Anyone Who Really Wants to Use Them, is the actual name of the book Hazelden put out. Because you really could. And they actually did it. There were members of the parish I was in back then, and they actually would start meeting at different houses once a week and helped each other and guided each other to try to get back into the workforce. It was totally amazing. And this is the kind of stuff I talk about. I love sharing because over the years, I've seen this work in so many different ways for so many different people, through the grieving process, different areas of life. The steps are a powerful tool, but they're a powerful tool for recovery. So I hope this helps you understand the steps a little bit better and to apply them to your own life. And to look at them as another way of growing and developing ourselves as people. And I look back on these steps as gifts. As I said, I'll try to share more about that next week. But the concept is, so what I want to do is I want to start a new series next week, one I did last year. A lot of people liked it. It was called The 9 Gifts of Gratitude. The 9 Gifts of Gratitude. So next week we'll talk about the gift of family, the powerful gift of family next week, and we'll work on that. And so I'm going to kind of close out tonight in this series with a very special prayer, a prayer of gratitude to the God of our understanding, our higher power, to help us and guide us on our journey as we navigate the different ways of life. Let us pray. God, we come before you as a family tonight. We ask for your guidance. We ask for your direction. Please walk with us, help us, and guide us as we walk the journey of life. You are our guide. You are special. You are a big part of who we are. I ask that you help us on this journey to be open to your will, to your guidance, to your direction. Teach us to walk the earth, to walk our journey, but to walk in conjunction with you. Know that you are sending every day messengers into our life. Help us to be open and listen to them. We're grateful in very many ways for the people who have come before us, those who have left us, those on our wall at Starting Point, and those who maybe are not on the wall but are part of our journey. We ask you and thank you with gratitude for their journey on this earth, for they being able to pass things on to us, and now it's for us to pass them on to others. For we are on the journey ourselves. Allow us to be able to have the spirit of generosity, the spirit of sharing, the spirit of giving, the spirit of being open, of learning, and of growing. The spirit is something we have to work deep on inside of ourselves. Teach us to realize that you speak to our spirit every day. You give us guidance and direction. Help us to listen within. Help us to fill our soul, to ask for your help and guidance every day, and know that we will be led if we ask. Teach us not to hide our talents and gifts, but to share them with others so we'll get back 100-fold. For you have created us, you are given us the gift of life. We're grateful every day for that gift, and we thank you for who we are. And so we ask you, please, be with us and guide us as we walk together. We celebrate the journey of life. We ask this in your name. Amen. And now I'm going to ask all of you to mind unmuting yourself, and we'll close with the we version of the Serenity Prayer.
Did you unmute it?
Mm-hmm.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. God's will, not mine, be done.